What's going on, you guys? Levi, the Moldavite guy here. Welcome once again to the Moldavite Life Podcast. Okay, I know it's been a while. So, for any of you that have been following along, I know the podcast has been more or less on pause or on hold for over a year now. So, Moldavite has been doing its little thing. Any of you guys that work with Moldavite on a regular basis, you probably have an idea what I'm getting ready to talk about. So, I have actually spent quite a bit of time trying to organize exactly how to share this. So, decided to break it up into 3 parts. Part 1. Okay, so I figured I'd start this off with a fact, because I've really got to get into this where massive change. So I've been working with Moldavite for a little over 2 years now. And so I want to get you guys up to speed on what's going on and why this episode here is starting off a little bit different. So let's get right into it, shall we? All right, so I figured I'd try to put together a couple things, make it a little bit more interesting for you. So fact, people that work with Moldavite often experience a lot of change in their life. So if you work with this stone, forgot to get my stone out. All right, so I always carry a piece with me here. If you work with this stone, this is actually the second piece I ever bought. Pretty good sized piece, but I carry it with me almost every day. So if you work with this stone, your inner and outer world will change! Exclamation point. So, okay, so this may or may not be true for everyone, but if it's on the internet, it's true, right? Because, I mean, everything on the internet is true. No, it's not. But, all right, so for, I've actually taken some notes here because had so much happened. So many things have been going on last year, especially. Massive change. So, all right, so we got the got that one out of the way. Forgive me if I'm swatting mosquitoes. They're out and about here. So I'm out in nature. I've got some water, nice running water back here, and it's really a beautiful spot. So great spot to start this off. Oh, the date, a little unorganized. So today's date, 9/9/18. So that's a lot of nines if you guys are into numerology. Starting this off. Okay, part 1. So all right, so I'm going to back up. Like I said, this is a 3-part series, backing up to about a year and a half ago. I went to, if you recall, last episode, which is not actually up on YouTube. You gotta go check it out on my website. There's a reason for that. There's a whole story behind that. I'm not even get into that right now. So, if you want to see episode 8, go to the website, moldavitelife.com. So, went to a Moldavite ceremony, and it was definitely kind of a pivotal point in time there. And many things happened there that I couldn't explain. And there's a saying, they say, have you ever heard the expression, the reason you're here is not the reason you're here? Well, that was not apparent at the time, but became apparent later on in the year. So about a month later after going to the ceremony, I received an order on my website for a piece. It was a piece going to the same area where I had been the month before for the Moldavite ceremony. So out of curiosity, I reached out to this person and said, hey, did I hand you a card, a business card, or how did you come to find out about me? And so turned out that this person was actually at the Moldavite ceremony, and neither of us knew it. So even odder, I actually had looked around. You know, I was the only guy out of about 40 women. Pretty good odds, right? So I looked around, you know, and I was trying to find some people about my age to talk to, and there's this one young lady sitting behind me, and so I invited her to come sit up front so she could see better. Wink, wink. And she declined. I didn't really think much of it, but anyways, as it turns out, as we found out, I had actually said hi to her there at the ceremony, and this is kind of leading forward. So let me try and stay on track here. Keep that in mind. I'll come back to that. So a few months later, I had a reading done on one of the pieces that I created, and not this piece. This is actually, I'll show you this later on. So I had a reading done on a piece that I created, and it was this piece right here. And this is actually, you can see it real close. So it's Moldavite with pieces of, sorry, I'm swatting mosquitoes. I'm absolutely delectable tonight for some reason. All right, so this is, of course, Moldavite in between a rare form of quartz, which I forget the name of it right now, but the quartz actually has, instead of single terminations, it has these tiny terminations at the very top that almost look like a castle, like the very top parts of a castle. I don't remember what that's called, but anyways, I'm mysteriously drawn to some unusual crystals and minerals, and anyways, I could get into that later on. A lot to cover. Okay, so back to the story. So created this piece here, and this is actually a necklace right now. It's got a piece of blue kyanite on there. So and this one piece right here is a piece of bent quartz, which is another fairly rare formation. Bent quartz is very healing metaphysically. All right, so when I originally created this, I created it with the thought that it would simply hang in somebody's environment, like a Reiki studio, sound healing, or something like that, some place that they could more or less energize and cleanse the area that it was in. And so while I had the reading done by this, had this reading done by a woman on YouTube. Her name is Abby Normal. She is a psychic. She does psychic readings, all kinds of healing things. So I strongly suggest, if you ever want to check something like that, go check her out. I'll put a link in the show notes down below the video to Abby Normal's website and also her channel. She's got a whole bunch of videos here on YouTube. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. So, okay, so had a reading done on this piece here, and you know, as I was getting the, well, I don't want to get too far off track because I got a little ways to go here. So, had a reading done on this piece here, and pause. Mosquito. All right. So she kept getting the impression that it was some kind of a necklace, and so she had suggested that I take it and kind of drape it over my shoulder or whatnot, and I was like, okay, sure. And so she felt very strongly that it was meant to be a necklace. And so I put a little piece on there so that it could actually be fastened as a necklace. And among other things, she said that this piece was meant to help me in some kind of wowzery way on this journey. So this was, keep in mind, this was about a year and a half ago. So, and she said that, again, she does readings on crystals. And so I was like, well, anybody can do a reading on a crystal. I'm going to do a reading on something different. So I asked if she would do a reading on this. Indeed, she did. So she said these crystals and Moldavite all love being exactly where they're at. And she says they communicate with each other like birds on a wire, like yeah, the little chirping birds outside your window on the, you know, the telephone pole or whatnot. She says they kind of communicate with each other like supercomputers. And we were doing a session by Skype, which from what I understand, I'm not sure if she does Skype readings anymore, but she said that when I put it around here, she said my head looked like it was on fire. So, I mean, for me, you know, at the time and still now, exploring again, it's fairly new spiritual path, it was like, wow, really? Okay, you know, I'm going to go with faith because I'm not, you know, not nowhere nearly as in tune as she is. And so I was really kind of in awe of what she was tuning into, picking up. So anyways, that was pretty cool. So among other things, one thing, she actually did a great deal of work on my heart chakra a little while after that, maybe a month or two, something like that. And let me get back on track here. Okay, so she did some major work on the heart chakra, and I physically felt something like, excuse me, I gotta readjust. I'm sitting on a rock out here. It's absolutely beautiful out here. So she did some major work on the heart chakra, and you know, I physically felt something. It was one of the first few times that I've actually noticed anything like that. But this was pretty intense. And the thing was, it's not just that she was working on my heart chakra. It was during a guided meditation. And during this guided meditation, I more or less closed my eyes, and she was doing energetic work, which I didn't realize at the time exactly how much. And so while we were in this guided meditation, she was guiding me through this to meet one of my spirit guides. And during this time, I asked for, or she instructed for me to invite one of them to come forward. And ironically, it's out here in water. So as I had held up some water, to offer some water to a guide in this meditation, I saw this corkscrew of smoke, and it came toward me. It was very vague, but it was just it was like this, and I didn't think a whole lot of it. And then a little bit later on in the meditation, we were in this desert, and it was at night. It was a very pleasant thing, not uncomfortable, but it was very, very, very peaceful, very calm, lots of stars in the sky. And in this desert, again, there was this structure, this giant, huge castle kind of thing. It was almost like something out of, if any of you remember the movie, what was that? Back in like the 80s. Give me 1 second here. Shoot, I'm gonna have to clip this video. Okay, the Neverending Story. That was the name of it. So, the movie, the Neverending Story, and so what I saw was something like what I would picture in that movie, and she invited me to see what I could do in there. So she was like, "Well, can you walk over there?" And I was like, "Okay." So I envisioned flying, and sure enough, it did. So I flew straight to the top, and then sat on this more or less ledge, looking down at everything below. And so she came up there and was more or less, more walking me through the meditation a little bit more, and went down to the sand, and I can't remember if she suggested maybe I could invite a guide, try inviting a guide again, or how it came about. But anyways, I ended up seeing that corkscrew of smoke again came at me, and then it appeared into like this giant pink dragon. Look, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm I'm not a little bit wacky. This is some crazy stuff here, but still. All right, so meeting spirit guides. There you go. So the journey with Moldavite, it's about 1.5 years ago. Within the first year, I'd say, led me to meeting one of my spirit guides. And anyways, this turned out to be a very playful pink dragon that, at least from my perception, I've had other people have kind of tuned into it and gotten completely different interpretations. And so I'm more or less under the assumption that everyone has their own view of whatever it is. Would be that or anything. I mean, you could look at the sky. I could look at the sky and say, that's blue. Somebody with a seriously artistic mind, they look at the sky and go, that's purple. So, anyways, so this very playful pink dragon was another major stepping stone, and I'm still having trouble reconnecting with my guides in that way, but I'm still working on it. It's just anyways, let's get on with this. This show's actually running a little bit long. So let me kind of summarize it, because I'm trying to get to part 2 and part 3 before it gets too dark out here. So I ended up finding out that I've got another guide through signs. We were trying to figure out guides one day, and this goes back to the heart chakra thing. Let me get back to this. This is actually kind of important. So I was trying to add, there was discussions in a small group here of who their spirit guides were, and one time, okay, so I walked outside one morning, and I saw this snake scurry off, and as I turned around the corner of where I was at, there was another one scurried off, and they were rat snakes. They go after mice, rats, things like that, little rodents. And as I turned around to back up, and then I looked down. When I looked down, my foot was about 2 feet away from I think it was a cottonmouth or water moccasin. It might be the same thing, I'm not sure. Either way, it was a venomous snake. So here's how you tell the difference. Regular non-poisonous snakes, their eyes, they're round, they're center, they're iris. Poisonous snakes, they're straight up and down, slit like a cat. And so, plus the head itself is in like a diamond shape. So this snake it was drawn back a little bit, but it wasn't like ready to strike or anything. I mean, it was obviously in a state where it could strike if it wanted to. It could easily have bitten me, and it didn't. So it scared the crap out of me, but it didn't bite. So I took that as a sign that, okay, there's probably maybe a snake guide. And so now let me jump forward to the heart chakra thing. So when I noticed that I was feeling something, physically feeling something, like it felt like I'd been running a mile and my chest was just hurting. And so I contacted Abby, and she went and more or less tuned into it again. And at that time, I'd found out that she'd been doing some major work on the heart chakra when guiding me through that guided meditation. And so she, at that time, told me that she saw this three-headed snake guide, like protecting me. She said one head was here, another was here, and another was here. And it was like, she said it was quite intimidating. I guess that would be. But that was kind of confirmation that, okay, well, there's probably another guide, because, you know, the physical experience that I had where I could have easily have been bitten, but was not. It was obviously protected in some way, shape, or form, whatever you want to call it, because normally the non-poisonous snakes are not very aggressive. The poisonous snakes can be very aggressive. And again, I just feel like, number one, seeing 3 snakes back to back. Number 2, that I was safe. I took that as a sign. And number 3, I feel like when Abby kind of tuned in and did her thing, that was confirmation. So there's another one. Anyways, let me get going here, because this is running long. Did not mean for this to run long. I'm trying to get these videos down to 15 minutes. So, all right, so, man, I'll have to just like go through this and then come back at this, you know, another time to share more detail. So, fast forward. I had another reading, psychic reading done by this guy in Virginia. Very, very good. This guy he's tuned in. His name is James, and so he asked what I wanted to work on. I said, no, I'm trying to get in touch with my guide. So at the time, I was really quite intrigued and fascinated, and, you know, asked about that one dragon guide. And so anyways, I said, you know, but if whatever's the case, whatever's in my highest good. And so he more or less took some time and then shared what he got. And he named off a number of guides by name and kind of how they were associated with me. And he also, at the end of the session, he mentioned that I was probably going to meet someone that I had known in a past life. And this person in a past life, he mentioned a number of characteristics about this person. I didn't have a clue. I was like, okay, well, how many billion people are on this planet? And so, you know, he said, okay, he said he got the impression that the name started with a J. Other things he said was that, well, anyways, I'm not going to get into it. Leave this out of it because out of respect for this person, we'll say that. All right, so he said that, you know, in this past life, this person and I, that we had a good life together. And he said, you know, in this past life, I was a miner. Like, I would go out and I would dig rocks, and that's how I made my living. And he said at one point I had somehow come across a spaceship inside of, like, I can't remember, I have to listen to the recording. It was either inside of a rock basin or inside of a cave, I don't remember. And he said, I tried to get into it, but he said they, meaning I guess my guides or whoever it was he was communicating with, that I was not able to get into it. But he said it changed me, where I saw colors around everything, everyone, like everything. There was colors. And he said because of that, I was a bit of an outcast in that lifetime. And at the same time, this woman, in the same lifetime, she was an outcast because she was a little different. So he said, you know, we had a good life. We made it work because we were both essentially outcasts in the village. And so, you know, I had thought about this reading and thought about many different things that he said, thought about, you know, my journey more or less to that point. And I think it was like 2 days, no, I think it was like the very next day, I walked outside, just out there in nature, and I more or less put a silent call out to the universe. And I got quiet, said, okay, I don't know where you are, who you are, but if you're out there, start making your way my way. And so I think it was either the very next day or 2 days later. I keep getting that time frame confused, but I know it was within 2 days I received a text. And if you remember back to, let's rewind to the back of this video, the first part of the video. So remember I went to that Moldavite ceremony. So I received a text from this woman that had actually ordered a piece from me a month after the ceremony. And turns out this woman was the same one that sat right behind me at the ceremony, the same one that I offered to, hey, you want to come sit up front, you know, whatnot. And so she texted me out of the blue, and it was kind of surprising. You know, at the time I didn't think much of it, but okay, I gotta cut this off here. So stay tuned for part 2. It's getting good.